All right, well, today's flavor exploration shall be Ravnican based. Greetings, hatchlings. We are here for another boosted awareness. We're going to be taking a trip through a Guilds of Ravnica booster, see what kind of flavor we're dealing with. You guys know how it works at this point. I mean, this is an ongoing series, so let's dive into the booster pack. Time to crack into this Guilds of Ravnica and see what kind of flavor we got in this package. What's inside of this booster package? All right, we got maximize altitude, but we're looking to maximize flavortude. All right, 1 blue sorcery. Target creature gets +1/+1 against flying until end of turn. Jumpstart. You may cast this card from your graveyard by discarding a card in addition to paying its other cost, then exile this card. Well, I mean, this is lame. Honestly, to me, this is lame and not really very magical. This just feels like a jetpack glider wing kind of thing, and I don't like this. This harkens back to Kaladesh for me, and it feels distinctly non-high fantasy to me. It's like there's a lot of ways to represent flying, but when they use technology to do it, it's kind of a loss for me. Obviously, this is an is-it card, and they tinker around technology, but I don't like it. So let's divorce ourselves from that concept and take a look at the artwork. I do like the way that he is blasting up into the air and the buildings around him have almost this like liquidy blur kind of going on to indicate just how fast he is ratcheting up into the sky. So that's pretty cool. And the concept of the birds being startled, if you didn't notice, this is actually a bird right here. And I never noticed until just now looking at the artwork. Just kind of looked like wind or something before, but this is a bird taking flight, and there's birds all over the place. So overall, the art is half win, half fail. Definitely don't like the tech aspect of it. Obviously, in terms of tying together conceptually the mechanics and the art, it goes together. You can see a creature's getting flying. Although, honestly, where it falls apart is the getting the +1/+1. It's like every creature can use this jetpack here. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. You could slap this onto, like, a Carnosaur or anything else, and it would just be able to fly up in the sky. How? So the fact that this can't be universally applied makes this, for me, overall, I'm going to lean into more of a fail than a win on this one. So let's move on to something that'll hopefully be more exciting. Barging Sergeant, Bargle Sargle. 1 red, 4 colors for a 4/2 haste with Mentor. Whenever the creature attacks, you put a +1/+1 counter on target attacking creature with lesser power. Don't stop till your horns come out their back. There you go. This overall ties together pretty well. You've got clearly the Sergeant. He's part of the Boros Legion. A lot of Minotaurs joined the Boros Legion, so you can see that. You've got the creature here that he's mentoring. This is the creature that basically he's saying to them. I like the idea of a Minotaur imparting its lessons to other individuals, regardless of whether they have Minotaur horns or not, as if they were Minotaurs. That part is pretty fun to me. Now, we're going to have to pause the episode for a moment because it appears the batteries are going to die on me and I don't want to lose any part of this pack opening. So, you won't really notice much of a difference, but I am going to have to pause here with a snap. All right, and snap back to reality. We're ready to continue on with the pack. 10th District Guard, 1 white, 1 colors for a 2/2 human soldier. When it enters the battlefield, target creature gets +0/+1 till end of turn. The 10th has always been my home. The city is constantly embroiled in one crisis or another, but I'm determined to protect my peace. All right, well, you know what? The flavor behind this makes sense. You've got a guard that gives toughness to a creature, basically comes across and defends them. That works pretty simply in terms of looking like a guard. She sure does. She's got nice burnished armor. She's got that halberd there, ready to do some damage. I could see this being a 2/2. She looks pretty imposing, actually. I like this artwork. You got the autumn leaves blowing around. Woo! It's Ravnica in autumn. Whoop-de-doo. But overall, you know what? She looks pretty good. And they didn't make her ugly. That's something for a woman. You see, they tend to make a lot of questionable looking women nowadays. So this is all right. This is not too shabby looking. It's pretty badass. We've got Veiled Shade. This is your wife. She's come looking for you. 1 black, 2 colors for a 2/2 shade. Pay a black and a colorless, it gets +1/+1 till end of turn. Standard shade style ability. I sang songs of sorrow for my lost love. Imagine my horror when one night they were answered. Milana, Orzhov Prelate. Well, that's kind of, it's weird. Milana sounds like a lady's name. Was she married to another lady? I guess so. I mean, that's how it goes. So this is an all right concept. Honestly, the way that the like the shrouded robe gossamer kind of thing that she's wearing here melds with what looks like kind of mist. It looks like part cloth, part mists, and it all comes together. And look, more autumnal Ravnica. Doesn't it make such a difference? Isn't it really worth noting that, oh, we're going back to Ravnica and it's autumn? That part always makes me laugh. But overall, you know what? The flavor on this card's pretty decent. It's not a very strong card in all honesty, but whatever. I mean, it's just some undead that wanders the night of Ravnica looking for its long-lost love. And we've got Kraul Foragers, 5 mana for a 4/4. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life for each creature card in your graveyard. Feed on food, you eventually rot. Feed on rot, you live forever. Kraul saying, that doesn't make any sense, Krauls. That's not how life works, you silly insect scouts. And the artwork here, I'm not 100% sure what's going on in all honesty. It's sitting there going, you got Kraul Foragers, so you have a Kraul Wizard standing up here, and you've got some kind of green life energy going on, and you've got some Kraul standing here where they foraged and found what looks like shields and stuff. Like it doesn't really transmit the concept very well in terms of you gain 1 life for each creature card in your graveyard. So overall, the idea of them being foragers works, but the idea of like the actual ability doesn't tie in, and the flavor text is stupid because that's a really stupid saying. So, meh. Candlelight Vigil, 1 white, 3 colorless for an enchant creature aura. Enchanted creature gets +3/+2 and has vigilance. Selesnya guild mages do not sleep, so the rest of the conclave can't. This is some really interesting artwork. I like that it's so dark to show that, you know what, okay, she's standing out there throughout the night. Her eyes are glowing, kind of matching all the candles. I love the fact that the candles are floating around her. It gives it a very arcane feel to it. Honestly, the fact that it gives +3/+2 makes you wonder, can she actually make these candles kind of like spin around her in defensiveness, and can she actually set things on fire using the candles? Do these candles melt down, or are they constantly staying at that kind of state? Does she have vigilance because she doesn't have to move and she can actually physically send that spiral of candles out to do her bidding? I like the fact that it's very clearly a Selesnyan mage as well, because you can see that it's very dark, but at the top you can actually see the tip of a Selesnyan staff, and she's obviously standing at some place of height up on a balcony or something where she can keep watch over the conclave to make sure everyone's safe. So the flavor on this is actually really good. It all ties together pretty well, leaves you with some interesting questions. Then we've got Sonic Assault, 1 red, 1 blue, and a colorless instant. Tap target creature, Sonic Assault deals 2 damage to that creature's controller. It's got jump start, so you can play it from your graveyard by discarding a card. And he heard stars and saw thunder. All right, well, I mean, it's a Sonic Assault, right? So wouldn't that be just noise? Isn't Sonic just noise? Why would he see thunder? And also, he heard stars and saw thunder, so it's supposed to be the reverse. It turns your hearing and sight. Oh, what is that called? There's synesthesia or something like that, where people actually see sounds. So I suppose that's what's going on. But you know what? I guess that kind of works. The artwork doesn't really make sense though when it goes, he saw thunder. Really? Where? Doesn't look like there's anything in front of him. You see a bunch of red and blue lights behind him, kind of rippling outwards, but you don't actually see anything in front of him. So the flavor text is kind of interesting, but also kind of doesn't really tie into the card. The Minotaur obviously is in serious distress here, though. You can see why it taps the creature. It basically would bring you to your knees as you just no longer can trust your senses. Being assaulted by loud noises is one thing, but having what you see and what you hear reversed would be even more intense. I feel like the name, if they had changed the name of this card somewhat, it would all tie together better. But I do like the muted Minotaur versus the brightness of the lights behind him. That's pretty cool. Then we've got Rhizome Lurcher. 1 green, 1 black, 2 colors for a 2/2. It's got Undergrowth. It enters the battlefield with a number of +1/+1 counters equal to the number of creature cards in your graveyard. The dead gain new purpose here. What is strange in the eyes of other guilds is harmonious in ours. Devesh, Golgari Shaman. Yep, the Golgari don't believe that life and death are actually two separate things. They think that they're all part of the same cycle of renewal, which ties in pretty well to a green-black concept. I like that. And obviously this is some crazy fungus zombie that feeds off of the dead to grow in strength. And that again feels like a very green-black ability. Overall, this ties together really well for the 2 colors that it's meant to be. The fact that it's a fungus equals the green side. The fact that it's a zombie equals the black side. I like that it's got, like, it's kind of zombified. It's got a crazy skull, but then you've got like these big antlers kind of representing nature. I love the way this thing's put together, and it's crazy how many different arms and things it has. I guess maybe it can grow itself more arms by feeding on corpses. Pretty neat. Then we got Fresh-Faced Recruit, and he is 1 red/white and 1 colorless, a 2/1. As long as it's your turn, Fresh-Faced Recruit has first strike. Hold on to your ideals. They'll be tested more than your armor or the edge of your blade. Tragic. And you can see here, this is a brand new recruit to the Boros Guild. I like the fact that it shows that he's only got first strike when it's your turn. And that gives kind of that like novice feel to him, where it's like, okay, he doesn't have first strike all the time because he hasn't been part of the Boros Guild long enough. He hasn't learned enough. He hasn't been mentored by the other Boros. I like that they show him basically the skyline behind him. This is a big Boros installation here, one of their fortresses. You can tell by the designs. They have a very like blocky style building concept that sticks out on Ravnica. It doesn't look like the other, like, you know, the Orzhov have their churches and their like spires that soar into the sky. Well, the Boros tend to have more squat, stocky buildings. And you can see that here, even with all this like open sky behind him instead of it being full of all kinds of really tall buildings. Overall, I like it. You can see that he obviously hasn't seen much battle. There's no dents or damage to his armor. It's all shined up and brand new. He is brand new and ready to go. Then we've got Mephitic Vapors. 1 black and 2 colors. It's a sorcery. All creatures get -1/-1 till end of turn. Surveil 2, so you get to look at the top 2 cards of your library, put any number of them into your graveyard. And Ravnica's safest strongholds are often neither. They're neither safe nor strong. That's the idea, is that the Dimir can get at you no matter where you are. They'll just send in these poisonous vapors that will eat away at people. So you can see this here. You have multiple people choking, holding of their throats. They're all leaned forwards in a pose of suffering as these vapors are going inside their lungs. And since most humans are 1/1, this would actually end up wiping out a lot of people. These people are most likely all doomed. And it's cool. It shows that the Dimir strike from the shadows. You never know where they're going to be or what they're going to do. I like the blue nature of the vapors. A lot of the time you'll see this represented with green kind of poison. This sort of thing might not be for anybody who hadn't seen it. Like if you were in a stronghold and you hadn't seen this sort of attack from the Dimir before, you might go, oh, what is this kind of weird bluish mist that's flowing in? And then all of a sudden it's flowing up and through your nostrils, down your throat, and all of a sudden you're done for. Pretty cool. And we got Nightveil Predator. 2 black, 2 colors for a 3/3 flying death touch with hexproof. It's a nice three abilities on a 3/3, not too shabby. I also like the 2 blue, 2 black. It looks good as part of the casting cost. It just does. Nightveil Predator is an excellent name as well. 3 daggers left in an angel's back. 3 enforcers with memory loss. 3 keys stolen from my own belt. And you talk of peace? Tragic to Aurelia. That's pretty cool, honestly. This thing is just coming out under the shadow of darkness. This is another Dimir creature, and it's just, how do you deal with this? It destroys anything that it fights. It can fly to anywhere. Any magic you try and cast on it will just melt away and not be able to find a hold on it because it has hexproof. That's pretty cool, and I like the number of, I like that it has 3 abilities. It's 3/3, and there's a lot of mentions of 3 in the flavor text. Overall, a very well done card, and the Predator itself looks pretty menacing. Imagine this thing just flying up out of nowhere. You're just, oh, you're doing your rounds as a soldier or something like that, and poof, in the middle of the night, this thing just comes out. This vampire comes out and just ends you. And we've got Golgari Raiders. 1 green, 3 colors for a 0/0 haste. Enters the battlefield, the +1/+1 counter on it for each creature in your graveyard. What the Golgari can't claim through Patient Undercity expansion, they seize in brazen topside sorties. So it shows that they're not just content to allow the natural circle of life and death to go ahead and allow them to get the resources they need to build their troops up. They also resort to actually just sending out raiding parties. Now, honestly, the flavor of it kind of falls apart. The Rhizome Lurcher that gets +1/+1 for every counter for each creature in your graveyard makes more sense in this. These look like regular individuals. So why wouldn't that be a 1/1? Why wouldn't that be a 1/1? Why wouldn't that be a 1/1? Like, if there are no creatures in your graveyard, then how are these, like, unless these are all supposed to be undead, which they don't look like to me. They're called, it's elf warriors specifically. So it feels like these would have power and toughness without there needing to be any creatures in the graveyard. And that's a fail for me. I do like the green glowing lights behind them. Overall, the artwork is just kind of, okay, you've got some elves with some weapons. And I mean, even look at the weapons. Look at this stuff. It looks like they would be beefier than they are. This feels like a 3/3 creature. So in that regard, it's a fail from the flavor perspective. Then we've got Sun Home Stalwart. Hey, you know what? Actually, that's a pretty good contrast for the fresh-faced recruit, really, if you look at it. Because the fresh-faced recruit has the same casting cost in terms of being like a colored mana and a colorless. It's a 2/1. This guy's a 2/2. He has first strike all the time instead of just on your turn. And he has mentor. So he's been around for a while. He's learned. And the flavor text says, before I let you wield one of these, let's see you dodge one. Oh, yeah, you know what? This is great. This guy could easily be the teacher of a fresh-faced recruit. And look at that blade, too, man. His sword looks like a big, massive, two-handed great blade, and it looks fantastic. I absolutely love the way the hilt of this thing looks. That's pretty cool, man. And again, we see the Boros masonry shown behind it, but he's shown against a like a more gloomy kind of sky. But yeah, he looks pretty good, honestly. And overall, the card isn't too shabby for what you get for 2 mana. So this one feels like a win. Then we got Mission Briefing. Ugh. Oh god. All right. 2 blue instant, surveil 2, then choose an instant or sorcery card in your graveyard. You may cast that card this turn. If that card would be put into your graveyard this turn, exile it instead. I hate this artwork so much. I hate this stupid, the Dimir have Bluetooths. Like, that's what that is. That's what that is to me. That she's like, she's got a Bluetooth headset and she's putting her hand up to it or whatever. It's like she's getting her mission briefing through it. Like, come all over. I've got the Bluetooth in. Johnny 2297. They're over. Breaker 99. It's dumb. It's dumb. The Dimir have to take their lockets and turn it into like an earpiece to put on their ear. That it literally just says Bluetooth to me. She's sitting there with some kind of magic in her hand. It's almost the magic that she's holding in her hand feels similar to thought erasure. You know what I mean? Where it's like, but obviously in this case it's the spell that she's casting back. But it's like, why does she have the spell in her hand at the same time that she's getting like the mission briefing? Why then? It's if you cast the spell instantaneously, like right when the spell is cast, she would be. It just, the flavor of this whole thing falls apart, and it genuinely drives me insane. Absolutely insane, this stupid Dimir Bluetooth nonsense. I hate it. I hate it. I hate this art. You know what the crazy thing about it too is, one of the things that makes me hate it so much is if you removed the Bluetooth from it, then it would be far more interesting. In fact, you could just have her looking down at what she's holding, and that could be the mission briefing. It could be like almost like the Mission Impossible style thing where you look at it and it's magical, you read it, and then it just evaporates into nothingness and you know what you need to do. For me, this card is a fail. I'm not happy with it. It's just stupid Bluetooth nonsense. Then we've got Dimir Guildgate. This is a very Dimir booster pack. Dimir Guildgate enters the battlefield tapped, gives you a black or blue mana. You found this place only because you were summoned. Pray you're worthy of the invitation. Etrada. Oh, yikes. Being talked to like that by Etrada would be pretty scary. She is the absolute unstoppable assassin of the Dimir. And yeah, she's a pretty impressive card. I did a video all just about her because of how cool the card was and the flavor was behind it. Now, clearly you can see this is some like dark shadowed catacomb kind of entrance. It's the kind of place that you would expect to find an entrance to get into the Dimir. Just some long forgotten archway that most of Ravnica doesn't even know exists, and only the selected few are allowed to find and make their way through. And even if you do make it in, well, there's an underground lake that's full of bodies of people who have failed the Dimir. So just finding the guild gate is no guarantee that anything good is going to happen to you. I like it. It looks good. Following it up with an elf knight. It's a 2/2 vigilance elf token. That's all right. I mean, it's Celestian, so they're showing it in front of that the gigantic like world tree or whatever, the Celestian tree. I like that. You don't see that a lot in Ravnica, right? Most of the things you will see will be set against spires, buildings, things like that, because Ravnica is just essentially a gigantic city-state. So I like that. I also like the weird little funky aspect to the blade. You've got curves. It's almost like it got like a scimitar aspect to it, but then you've got this weird little like indent kind of area down here that makes it feel almost like half sword, half axe blade. I like the variety of that. I also like the weird Celestian design of his shoulder pads here, where the trees actually come down and provide a little bit of extra protection. Overall, it's a pretty good looking card. I mean, his face is a little, I don't know, monkeyish. Kind of looks like he's got a monkey face. But other than that, he looks pretty good. And that is the final card in the package. I gotta say, I absolutely hate mission briefing. It's just, come in, Commander Chief. I got my Bluetooth going on. I'm a trendy boy. Do not like. But you know what I do like? My golden scroll! The people who have my back on Patreon or through channel memberships. Thanks for supporting the channel. Means a lot to me, my friends. And to everybody, thanks for being here. And I'll see you guys tomorrow or maybe later today. Who knows? Maybe you're gonna put another video today. Hail to the king, baby.